Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows, the new Star Wars movies that are currently in the works, as well as other projects that will debut at Star Wars Celebration this year. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, if you want to go ahead and drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, here we are, it is the end of March. Time is just flying by. We are getting very close to the Kenobi TV series. A lot of fans are getting very prepared for what's about to come for the new Star Wars universe with the Kenobi series, Mando Season 3 and 4, and especially the Ahsoka Tano TV show. That's going to be a big deal in 2023. However, when it all dwindles down to what George, John, and Dave all have planned for the new universe, a lot of fans are getting very excited of what's to come, not just for the mandoverse, but for brand new eras that are going to be unveiled, not just at Star Wars Celebration, but also later down the road, with all of these new Star Wars shows, films, comics, books, novels, and video games that are going to all essentially work together to really make up this brand new EU. Now, with that being said, however, what's even all the more intriguing has everything to do with actor Pedro Pascal. Now, one thing about Pedro Pascal that we know is the fact that he's been having a lot of problems behind the scenes over The Mandalorian Season 4. Everything related to the character of Din Djarin, we're going to get into that a little bit more, and how this involves Kathleen Kennedy further with The Mandalorian Season 4 and what is happening with the Disney higher-ups over, of course, The Mandalorian as an entire series, of course, that a lot of fans have really been supporting, but Pedro is having a lot of problems with all of this. Now, with that being said, however, what's even all the more intriguing is that with, of course, new Star Wars TV shows such as the new universe in general, with TV shows such as the Ahsoka Tano series, and The Mandalorian Season 3 being made, Disney CEO Bob Chapek has been having a very busy time planning the new roadmap of the franchise and what projects will be unveiled at Star Wars Celebration this year. However, it's described that behind the scenes, actor Pedro Pascal has been very frustrated with the Disney higher-ups after the agreement to not pay him significantly higher for Season 4 compared to Season 3, and that he will need to keep the helmet on for the most part. However, as of now, Pedro Pascal is said to have some issues with Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy in regards to all of this, of all people. Pedro Pascal is said to have some issues with Kathleen Kennedy behind the scenes over the fact that she is not pushing for Pascal's helmet to come off the majority of the fourth season of Mando that is currently being planned. Even Kathleen Kennedy believes that Disney is making the right call for Pedro to keep the helmet on for most of the time in Mando Season 4. However, Pedro is expecting Kathleen Kennedy to not only stand up for him, but to also pull some strings into making it a reality for Pedro to have a moment in time where he's helmetless for the majority of the entirety almost of the fourth season of Mando. Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second. Now, we discussed this a couple of days ago that Pedro Pascal has had this issue before in the past, especially when he was making The Mandalorian Season 2. In fact, he wanted to have his helmet off for a majority of the entire season. And that was one problem that John and Dave are facing, is that Pedro Pascal was a little hard to work with at times, of being very overly demanding with the character of the Mandalorian and not fully understanding that he's a Mandalorian. He's got to keep that helmet on for the most part, at least. For what he has actually taking his helmet off in the TV show, that's going to be pretty much regulated. And they're trying to keep that down to a minimum to not demystify the character. They want to keep that mysterious attitude of Din Djarin in place. That is John and Dave's treatment of the character. They want to keep him as a very mysterious figure, with the helmet only coming off sparingly. And Pedro Pascal is having a lot of issues with that, especially over the fact that Kathleen Kennedy is not standing up for him. She's not really going out of her way to pull some strings, to at least have a talk with the Disney higher-ups and Disney CEO Bob Chapek to make things like that right. Now, obviously, Kathleen Kennedy has no creative control over Mando Season 3 and 4, so that also kind of is the big reason as to why she's not getting involved, and Pedro Pascal just doesn't seem to understand that, but I digress. So Pascal is described to have recently had multiple conversations with Kathy Kennedy over this big situation, and that she is refusing to help Pascal over the helmet request, and that Pedro is putting his foot down and setting an ultimatum to not return as Din Djarin after The Mandalorian Season 4 if they keep their plans as follows for the 2023 season. Now, Pascal is also described to be having some issues with his acceptance over the fact that nobody recognizes him as the Mandalorian, at least to casual Star Wars fans in his mind. Pedro recently stated in an interview that it's hard sometimes when nobody knows who you are underneath the mask, especially for those who don't pay much attention to the show that we have created. Now, behind the scenes, Pedro wants to be recognized more for what he does in the Star Wars universe, and in person is frightened that this could hurt his acting career, where he will only be seen as the actor with the helmet on. Kathleen Kennedy is described to stand by Disney's higher-ups and their decision with Pedro Pascal, and that this is causing only further tension between many people for what is going to happen, of course, for the 4th season of the series, given that both Jon and Dave Filoni want to avoid using Din Djarin without the helmet as much as possible. Now, Pedro Pascal is said to have felt betrayed over the fact that they gave him minimal face time, where Pedro recently stated in another interview, "Sometimes it feels like someone is dangling a carrot. When I get these great scenes without the helmet on, my character's emotions suddenly are able to rise and shine to the audience, only for that energy to be submerged for a very long time shortly after." So, here's the thing about everything related to Pedro Pascal having a lot of problems with Kathleen Kennedy. Now, obviously, I'm not in support of Kathleen Kennedy. I really do not like her treatment of Star Wars, but in this scenario, at least, she is not pushing Disney's higher-ups to take that helmet off for the majority of Season 4. Now, that is one thing, alright? There's two reasons to this. Number one, she has no creative power over that season, nor does she have creative power over the 3rd season. Number two, she has to know the lore. I mean, this is pretty basic lore that a Mandalorian does not take off their helmet usually. And they want to respect that. They want to make sure that this character can really stay intact with the lore of the Mandalorian. Now, Pedro's problem is the fact that, you know, he saw how Boba Fett was treated in the Book of Boba Fett with the helmet coming off for a majority of the entire show. But let's not forget that Boba Fett himself is not a true Mandalorian per se. He wears Mandalorian armor, but he's not really a Mandalorian in the sense of how Din Djarin is. So he's got to understand that. You know, Pedro Pascal's got to understand that he is a true Mandalorian when it comes to his character, and the helmet is the character. So that's one thing to really kind of understand for him. Now, the other thing is this, is the fact that he's giving an ultimatum to Kathleen Kennedy and the Disney higher-ups that he doesn't really feel like coming back after the 4th and final season of The Mandalorian in other Star Wars TV shows as Din Djarin. Look, I get it, you know, sometimes actors are, you know, facing that problem where they're not recognized as other characters in different franchises or movies. But this is Star Wars. He should really be very much grateful for what he's involved in. This is, if anything, creating a better career for him, in my eyes at least. I don't think it's destroying his career. I think it's actually enhancing his career, if anything. You know, he would probably get more roles after, you know, they shut the book and shut the deal of all Din Djarin appearances. Pedro Pascal will probably still thrive and survive in Hollywood with no problems at all. So, overall, guys, I would like to hear what you all have to say about everything related to this situation. If you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them always again.